Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. So I'm just getting started on this now. Just going to cut out these two pieces of fiberglass, copper clad, and transfer all of that onto here. So I'll get into it and I'll take you guys along for the ride. Well, I'm almost there. I've cut two strips. I just got to cut this end piece off. I'm also making it just a tad wider and a tad longer. It's not by much. I mean, if we look straight over here, that's lined up. There's like an extra centimetre at the most, and it's the same this way too. It's a bit harder to line it up that way, but anyway. So, you know, I just fit a couple of things on here, so I thought I'd leave myself a little bit more space. Then I can make my traces thicker and my ground plane thicker and all of that too, so this will be a good size. And in comparison to the amplifier or the board that's already here, I'll just stand one of these up. You know, I'm happy with that. That's fine. So, yeah. And yes, I did knock a chip out this corner here, but it won't matter because there are two corners that have unused space. So that corner would just be that corner. Other than that, they came out fine, other than the fact that one is ever so slightly bigger than the other one. And I mean ever so slightly, you know. They're pretty well the same. Alright, I'll get these finished and design the boards. I haven't thought if I'm going to do one or two now, just because I want to test them. I mean, obviously I can change components and make small changes to the board without having to redo the whole thing. But, you know, if I need to substantially change some circuitry, like add in an extra stage or something, you know, I think it's best that we do one board. I get the whole thing powered up, running, tested, all that sort of thing, finished. And, you know, then do the other board. So that's probably the way I'm going to do things. Okay, let's get these cleaned up. It's as if the dirt just disappeared. Alright, so the way I'm going to accomplish this is basically take a ruler or something straight that I can get to seal against the board, because I have problems with rulers and ink sort of wicking under it. I draw a line and there's all these bits of ink everywhere afterwards, but I have pulled it off. So I'll do that and I'll lay out these power and ground traces around the edge of the board, the power and the ground around the inside. And then once I've done that, why did I put that away? Once I've done that, I will basically measure out roughly, well not roughly, kind of more precisely actually, the relation of these transistors to each other and to the four corners of the board basically. You know, like I'll measure down and in so far, whatever, and I'll put all the pads for the transistors first, where they need to go. Then I'll come in and I'll start drawing everything else freehand. I think I'm pretty confident to do this freehand because I've got a sort of a method of doing this. So let me just get something to point with. When I drew this, I found it really easy after I had done, well, this whole side really. I found it really easy to start from here, copying this. Once I was further away from it, then I started using a different technique of doing like a section, like half the board going out a bit. then I'd do the top bit, and then I'd go out a little bit longer, and then like that. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but by doing that, I was able to keep the spacing. As you can see, I mean, this is quite well spaced. It's not perfect. There are slight differences between this side and this side, but it's not bad. In fact, if my finished PCB came out like that, I'd be quite happy. Oh, look, there's a couple places where I've got tracks going through pads that are not spaced enough, and that's mainly the reason why I made these boards slightly bigger. But also, as you can see here, a lot of this circuitry here is quite crammed together where it could have gone up a little bit higher, you know. So I think I'm going to be fine. So I'll get to laying this out and I'll give you a look along the way, and then we will etch the boards. Okay, let's get these cleaned up. It's as if the dirt just disappeared. That's one done. Well, power and ground traces. I don't know if I should do both at the same time. This is a little bit intensive. I think I might leave one and do it in my own time. I mean, this is my own time, you know what I mean. Alright, now I've got my two boards laid out with the power and ground. I'm going to put my component, or the pads for the transistors anyway, and then once I have them, especially the ones in the middle for the pre-driver stage, I'll be able to see where the center of the board is and the right half and the left half. So then I'll come in and break up the power traces where they need the appropriate breaks, and after that's done, then I'll fill in all the rest. Alright, so now I've got these middle sections sort of laid out. I can now visualize all my spacing. So what I'll do is I'll fill in the inside of this pre-driver section, and then I'll go do exactly what I did basically when I was drawing on paper, with the slight difference that I'm going to lay down the transistors first. The reason I've done these 4 transistors before all of them is so I've got a point of reference to work from, if that makes sense. If I tried to just plot them all, I'd be measuring all day with a ruler. If I do it this way, I've only got to measure just a couple of spots, and then I've got a point of reference to work freehand from. So I think that's easier. And like I said, I've made these boards deliberately a little bit bigger, so I'm definitely going to be able to make it all fit, you know. So, you know, I should still be careful though, because that is already getting tight. Oh, I guess it's about the same space actually. Yeah, I'm gonna have to not make things that big. Anyway, that's all right. I want this to be slightly thicker traces and that, because the pre-driver section has more current running through it than the front end stage. Obviously, the more current you have over a resistance equals more volt drop. So, you know, higher current circuits, bigger traces. I just realized something. I haven't actually cleaned up these little sections where I made these cutouts. I'll have to do that and then come back with a Sharpie and fix up again. Progress. Yes, I realise that that's not straight, but I really can't be bothered going back and redoing the whole lot. I've already had to rub out and redo a few little sections, so oh well. So actually, I think now what I'm going to do is lay out these transistors, then lay out these transistors, then draw all the traces in. Or I might just do it section by section. We'll see. Alright, so I've gone in and drawn all the pads for the rest of the transistors. So now all I have to do is just draw all the traces and the remaining pads for the other components. But this way, you know, because I've given myself a point of reference to start, and now off of that reference and the edges of the board, I've put all the transistors. Now I've got points of reference everywhere, so now it makes freehand a lot easier for me. As you can see, I've got a bit of a shaky hand and I'm not the best at neat writing or neat drawing. I mean, I can get it done, but it's not perfect. At the same time, I think it sort of looks cool in a way, because you can see that the board was done by hand. Like, you can actually tell someone took their time and actually sat there and laid it all out by hand and etched it when you see a board like this. So, I mean, it depends how you look at it. If you're going for aesthetics, no, it's not the neatest, you know. But like I said, if you like the fact that it's done by hand, then you might appreciate this. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm going to do the same thing to this board now, and then I can just go nuts and put all my traces and pads where they go. Won't take me long at all now. Basically, this is actually going to sound quite funny. The trickiest bit was actually these traces around the edge, because I had to do them with the ruler, and then, as you saw, clean it all up because it's messy with the ruler. And then I've got to come back and cut these bits in, and it actually took probably the same amount of time to do all of those edges, and then I've got to colour in between the two lines once they're drawn, or 4 lines for 2 tracks, you know. The time it's taken me to do that and that, everything you see currently, say those 2 sections and that, probably the same amount of time it took me to do these 2 boards. In fact, I'd say when I finished doing all these transistor pad layouts that I've just done on this second board, I'd say these 2 sections and those pads would have taken me about the same amount of time, surprisingly. And that's the other thing I've done. You know what? I need to do that to the top transistor too. Good thing I caught myself. I'm making a space on the board for these 2 transistors just in case I need to use TO 126 packages, something like that, to get more power. So I'm just making these pads a little bit bigger. I could still mount one to the smaller pads, but I mean, since I'm already here, you know, and I don't want to have to remake another whole board, it would be good if I leave provisionments. Because realistically, it's not like the topology is going to change. It's just going to be what resistor values and the transistors themselves. So if I leave space for bigger ones, then if I do end up with problems with this VAS, you know, I can just redesign it. That is the plan. Well, no, that's not the plan. The plan's for this to just work. But we will see. That's big enough. I'll do the same thing over here. Too close. Alright, now if I need to put a bigger transistor on the VAS, I have the provisionments for it in terms of pad. Alright, so I'll go do this to the other board now, and then start laying out traces and pads. I've just noticed something. I put the pads for the electrolytics that go between this rail and the ground plane trace, but I forgot the film caps. I mean, yeah, obviously I could just solder the cap onto that little bit of area there, but I always like to put a pad there. Not only it makes it stronger because you've got more area where the component's being soldered down to, but it makes it harder for you to forget components when you're building the board, because you'll see a pad and be like, oh, something goes there, right? If you don't put the pad there, it's a lot easier to just leave stuff out. So, and then also if you have to go and do work on it in the future and reheat it up and reheat it a couple of times to remove components and stuff like that, the copper can start to lift. So again, the more area that you have that's stuck down to the actual FR4 or whatever the board is that you're using, the better. All right. Well, that didn't go to plan. Everything just didn't fit. I put these 2 rows of transistors here, and then I had to move it all over and move this in, and man, I tell you, surprisingly, it's funny how the more you add to it, especially when you put the components on there, it makes it look more neat. I tell you now, as I'm doing section by section, and you know, like for example, when I did this little bit here in these 2 lines and then did this side, because I could see such a difference between the two, it looked terrible. But now everything else is around it, it looks better, you know. Look, I'm not bothered. Otherwise, you know, if it was going to be a problem electrically, yeah, I'd go back and redo it. For example, say these 2 nodes here were high current paths, you know, and it was critical that there was no difference in volt drop on the 2 lines, then yeah, I would go and make sure they were the same length, or if it was for data reasons, you know, something like that, to timing. Same with, you know, spacers, and you can see where I've opened up a few gaps to put a trace through, you know, but I've got my clearances and I've got the width of the traces that I want. I've got everything I want. It just looks a little bit ugly, but it is what it is. I'm happy with it enough. I'll go over it with a fine-tooth comb before I etch it and make sure there's no errors. But I found one error in my schematic. Not this schematic, this one. I joined base and collector there. Wait. No, that's right. No, that's wrong. So I should have joined that together there, and that shouldn't be joined, that should be joined. Hold on, what have I done? Jeez. Oh no, that's correct. That is correct. Right, this side's not correct. So these 2 little links should be swapped around. Where's my signal coming out there? What have I done? I'm confused here. Sorry guys. One of these is back to front. Anyway, I'll just pause the video and work that out. Alright, that took a little bit. My board is correct. It should be joined on this side and that side. So this is wrong, this piece of paper. But I had to move some stuff around here because I'd put on the negative feedback where the RNC goes to ground. On this board, I've got the capacitor here. Oh, sorry, the capacitor here and the resistor here, and that pad there goes to ground. But over here, I had put it in this little space here, but I had to still add that pad and this pad that goes to a wire that joins up to that pad, which, yes, it's the only bodge wire in the entire board. I mean, it's not a bodge wire, it's from factory, if you want to call it. I just don't have anywhere to run that trace. But anyway, yeah, if I made everything smaller, I could have done it. I tell you now, after doing this board, I've decided to go and buy something. I'm going to get a rubber ruler for this, because these metal rulers, where all the lines are and any imperfections, all the ink just wicks under it. So I'm going to get a rubber ruler or something that's got like a rubbery edge or something so that I can seal it down against what I'm working on. I'll work something out because I want to be able to draw neat boards, and I can't do that freehand. Well, not when the traces are like long distances, you know. Yeah, I can probably draw a perfectly straight line like from there to there if I really try hard, but you know, I had to use the ruler for these ones, and even then when I tried to trace back over them to make them thicker, I messed them up. So yeah, like I said, electrically, yeah, it'll work fine, but I just don't like the look of it. Anyway, I'm now going to copy what I've done there onto here, and then once I've copied that onto there, then I'll come back and do the two current sources, which is what this little space here is left for. I figured I'd do the more complicated circuitry, not complicated, what's the word for it? Intricate? No. Like it's got a higher component count and more traces, so there's more densely packed circuitry. There's more dense. I thought I'd focus on that first so that I don't use up too much space for stuff that's not so densely packed. Like the current sources are just what, an LED, two resistors and a transistor and a cap. You know, I can fit all of that in that space, but had I have done that first and maybe taken up a bit more space, I would have struggled to do this. So alright, I'll be back soon. Going to be etching soon. I'm actually quite what's the word? God, having a good brain day today. I'm actually really looking forward to this, to be honest. I cannot wait to get this working. I know I've still got to iron out some problems, but I don't think that's going to be a big issue. And if it is, well, oh well, we'll deal with that when we get to it. The worst possible thing I could see happening is me having to make the VAS a lot bigger, say TO126 or TO220 devices on this current source and the VAS transistor, and maybe changing the output stage. I want to try keep triple Darlington, but if the VAS current has to go up too much, I can see that being a problem for bias. And I mean, I could always lower resistor values, but then that's going to hurt gain. So I don't know, there's a bit of a trade-off with these things. See, you can always, where's my paper? You can always decrease the value of these resistors, and that'll help with cross distortion too, but it'll turn your bias down, but it also kills gain. So you've got things to think about. I got to apologize, guys. That was wrong. That was there, and that was there. I've altered it. It's now correct. I hope no one copied that. If you did, I'm sorry. Wow, this is time consuming. Alright, so now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 current sources, and then I can etch the boards. Onto the last board. I'll have to go over them and check for mistakes and, you know, little cracks and imperfections in the marker afterwards, but I'm almost there. God, if I sound like I'm not having fun, it's just because it's like 12 o'clock at night and I've been doing this on and off all day and I'm just tired, that's all. No, I'm actually really, what's the word? Just motivated, amped. Like I really want to do this. I can't wait to populate the boards and get the amps going. Anyway, I'll be back soon. Inspection time. Finally. I'll inspect these and then prepare the etching bath. Alright, this is my etching setup. I know it's nothing pretty, but because I've got a nice old school bathtub, I can put hot water in the bathtub, float a tub in it, and then just ferric away. Actually, I should be a little bit careful because I don't want to splash that everywhere. Okay, we need more than that. Thankfully, I've got another 2 bottles. Yeah, it's not going to sit flat. This is a problem sometimes. I have to take out just a little bit of water. That should be alright as I put more ferric chloride in there, we'll see. I'll bring it back up here where it's a little bit more shallow as well. That's definitely already going, as you can see, that's going quite dark instantly. I think that'll be more than enough for what's in there. I'll just rinse this other bottle out. Might as well just get the remnants that are in it and add it to it. Yes, it'll dilute it and slow it down, but it's not going to go to waste because the solution's still in there. And this stuff's strong. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is just agitate this every so often, making sure that I'm getting the hot water underneath the tub, and just wait. I'll bring you guys back soon when we've made progress or when we're finished. But that's how I get this done in the bathroom when I'm doing bigger boards, and I've got the big box because I don't have a heating pad that's that big. Alright, so I don't know if you're going to be able to see this or not, but basically when I lift this up and the ferric chloride runs off the board, you should be able to see light. I don't know if you can see that or not on camera. I can just see, if you look up towards the top of the screen, you can see what looks like gaps between traces lit up, and that's exactly what it is. I'll just put that back in. So it's getting there now. It's probably about, now it's started going. I'd say it's at least, 10-15%, maybe more. Yeah, probably a bit more actually. At least 15%. Alright, I've just dumped the water out the bath and put some more hot water in there because it was getting cold. And this is really starting to speed up. If I lift this up now, look how much you can see through the board. It's really coming along. A lot of it still you can't see through because the actual ferric chloride's blocking it. I'll bring you over here. Alright, now I've got to be really careful because I don't want to drop my phone in the bath, but there you go. So it's coming along. Alright, I've just dumped the water out the bath and put some more hot water in there because it was getting cold. And this is really starting to speed up. If I lift this up now, look how much you can see through the board. It's It's really coming along. A lot of it still you can't see through because the actual ferric chloride's blocking it. I'll bring you over here. Alright, now I've got to be really careful because I don't want to drop my phone in the bath, but there you go. So it's coming along. Well, I am very happy with what I have here. I'm going to go get some paper towels and some IPA and get this cleaned up. Alright, let's get these boards cleaned up. I can't wait to see how good these have come out because I used fresh ferric chloride, completely fresh, and I made sure that I really took care with the Sharpie to not miss any spots and to make sure I went over everything twice, even the really thin single lines. That's why nothing's perfectly straight, because I don't have, you know, a very straight hand for this sort of thing, and I went over everything twice. Oh yeah, looking good. I'll just keep that wet whilst I get to the other one. Oh, I got plenty more bottles of IPA. I always keep stocked up on these things. All right, there we go. All right, they came out wonderful. And that little bit where the ferric chloride hit there, that just happened at the end as I was taking them out. One board hit the other board and the Sharpie sort of just started floating away. So that will just clean up easy. Actually, that might have happened earlier. That actually looks like it did go a bit deeper. Yeah. Shit. Those bits are completely missing almost. Oh well. Not to worry. That's a very small nick and that doesn't go all the way through, so in actuality there's not that much damage. Let me turn the focus lock off, sorry. There we go, now I got it on the right angle. yeah, so I'm quite happy. Those boards are ready for population. Neat. Well, that's not bad. Can you guys see the traces from one board through the other board? I mean, seriously, that's pretty well lined up. There's a few things that are slightly different, but that's pretty good. I'm happy. Alright, well, that's the end of this video. I won't populate the board in this video because that's just going to make the video way too long. So I'll leave the video here and get on to the next one. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you all soon.